Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Garbage Time Takes. As always, I'm Derek here with my co-host Bobby.
Bobby?
And what do you know? Dennis has decided to show up on time today. Dennis, we're so appreciative that you could make time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Dennis, how have you been?
I'm doing well. I've been spending so much time trying to work on the articles I need to catch up on per Derek's instruction that I was unable to make it on time the last couple of weeks. It's been or 2 out of the last 3 weeks. It's been a whirlwind. We've been all over the place, but it's good to be here and good to be here on time.
Well, Dennis, I'm sure Bob, as much as our viewers are also very much appreciative that you were able to join us, from the start of the show, for the first time in what feels like forever. So thank you very much for
I
that.
know. I
Bob,
mean,
any opening thoughts?
As you can see, I had my background, my background's all prepped and, ready. Normally I was just, I have these ready in case Dennis doesn't join us, so he's represented in spirit. But, I think I'm just going to have to keep this trend going. So you never know what I might strike. Who knows? I might have to meet myself. It's gonna be good to, keep a little, this little trend or tradition going. We'll see how long it lasts.
Got to make sure you tune in every week to find out what Bob's going to come up with next. Ain't that right, Dennis?
that's absolutely right. And another benefit of having a scheduled out time and place. I'm here on time, and the people can know when to expect us coming out next, so they can always check us out and check out Bob's latest memery.
Also, thank you everybody for the support on the last pod. We have almost reached the goal. I mean, the artificial goal that I've set for viewers on a pod. We hit 49 views, and we still counting. Still can go back and watch it if you didn't catch that last episode on our last pod. But that's by far our most viewed podcast. So from the bottom of my heart and from everybody here at GTT, thank you for tuning in to the last pod. And of course, if you're here back at this one, be sure to leave a like and let us know. We'd love to hear what you're interested in hearing it from us every week.
I mean, we've even preemptively dressed for the occasion of our 50 view celebration. So I mean, what more can you want out of the GTT crew anyway? Let's start rolling into it. I'm going to throw you guys a curveball from what I was initially going to start. Usually I tell the guys what my thought process is for the sort of plan for the day's episode. But we got some recent news that Zach Wilson will not be ready until week 4, and Joe Flacco will be starting in his place. Now, I know the Jets are a very vaunted, juggernaut, lethal offense with Zach Wilson on the field, but I was curious as to what your guys' thoughts were if Zach Wilson's departure for the first 4 weeks as he recovers from his injury. Does that change your outlook at all on the Jets season? And you know what? We'll start with Dennis since he's wearing some mean green over there.
You know, I don't. I mean, the Jets are in a really interesting spot, right? Because the Jets are in a spot where they're trying to figure out what Zach Wilson is, and they really don't know. But all evidence points to when he's not been on the field, they've been better. But he's also the youngest quarterback on their roster and the only potential future quarterback on their roster. So I don't know exactly what the Jets are supposed to do with this. I mean, obviously they're not going to be able to start him until he comes back from his injury. When he does come back, I'd imagine they will start him because I don't believe Joe Flacco will light the world on fire. But I mean, the Jets with Mike White beat the Cincinnati Bengals last year and made Mike White look like a Hall of Famer for one game. And Zach Wilson had no such performances that I can recall off the top of my head. So I think Joe will be, it's going to be Joe Flacco, I'm imagining, right? At least
Correct.
to
It is
start.
the Joe
Okay.
Flacco show. He's still
That's what I
leading
figured. A Super Bowl champion, Joe Flacco. I
I
mean,
was
don't
just
forget
I was just
Joe.
about to say that. I was just about to say that.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll segue right to you then, Bobby. I mean, Super Bowl champion Joe Flacco, he's had his good years. I mean, over the hill, definitely. But he might be a better quarterback for this team than Zach Wilson. Bobby, your thoughts?
I mean, sure. Would you ideally like to have Zach Wilson? Yes. Would ideally he be taking the next step going into year 2 and hopefully showing a little bit more elite level play than he did last season. Yes, especially with the by all accounts an improving roster around him. But I don't really think the Jets were necessarily competing for anything. So is it that big of a deal? No. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe some time on the sideline would be end up helping Zach Wilson out in a way. I don't know, but I wish the best for Zach. He was probably my favorite young quarterback that I was rooting for the most coming out of that draft last year, and so I wish him nothing but the best going forward. But Super Bowl quarterback Joe Flacco, might have a blast from the past and rise up, and I hope he rises up against none other than Bill Belichick 2 times this season, because. I've had a stain on the Patriots franchise ever since Tom Brady left. So
this might give Zach Wilson some more time for some questionable behavior. If
Dennis,
you know.
Dennis, you stole my thunder. I was going to say, while there are a lot of unknowns surrounding Zach Wilson, one thing we do know is that he does have an affinity for the older women. Take that as you may. For me, it doesn't change too much. Jets' first 4 games, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Steelers. For some reason, the Jets start with the entire AFC North to start their season, and they were at best with Zach Wilson going 1-3, maybe squeaking a win over the Browns, but I don't really think it particularly matters. Joe Flacco might still be elite. The rest of the Jets are not, so just something that recently came up, was recently reported. So I figured we'd touch on it a little bit. With that, I think it only makes sense that, before we get into our preview with NFL football coming up, just briefly touch on some of the performances from this past, what felt like the entire weekend of college football. Thursday night, CMU, close one with Oklahoma State. They fought their hearts out.
Backdoor cover, baby.
That's right, the backdoor cover down in Oklahoma, Stillwater, I believe. Then we had Pittsburgh and West Virginia in what ended up being a really crazy game. Pick sixes, puking all over the field.
Oh yes, that was a great clip.
We had additional puking in the Penn State-Purdue game, from what I remember, and an absolute masterclass in clock management from both James Franklin and Coach Braum for Purdue. Dennis, I know you wanted to touch on this briefly. ECU and the turmoils of the college kicker. This podcast is, at least from me and Bobby, is a very pro-ECU podcast. We're pro-Pirate podcast. Dennis, your thoughts on ECU absolutely just blundering an opportunity there?
Yeah, I know that you and Bobby both enjoyed following and keeping up with and supporting the Pirates. So I thought this was a must mention. The poor East Carolina kicker had an opportunity to, correct me if I'm wrong, he had an opportunity to tie the game with an extra point.
Correct.
With 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game. Missed the extra point.
Correct.
And then with 2 or 3 seconds left, had a chance for a 30-something yard, 32-yard field goal to win the game, and completely blundered that as well. Basically, East Carolina lost on the legs of the college kicker. And I mean, I think we can all agree that kicking is probably one of the, it's got to be one of the worst positions to play, because you don't really get all the credit if you make the game winner, and you get all of the hate if you miss it. So it's a tough place to be. Feel bad for him. In East Carolina, once again, showing their affinity for blunders. I'm sure that Bobby and Derek, were both completely heartbroken and wrecked at this heartbreaking loss.
I was, because I think NC State is about as overrated as it gets. And I was really
if they almost lost to East Carolina and it took the blunders of the college kicker to sink them, then I think you have a valid point.
I was actually kind of, I was sad for East Carolina, but in a way I was happy, because this will just make their victory over Cincinnati later in the season that much sweeter.
Gotta stay hungry. Gotta stay hungry. I mean, Dennis doesn't have too much room to talk on ECU's downfall, considering UC starting out the season 0-1 too. Any thoughts there, Dennis?
19th ranked Arkansas. We didn't lose to North Carolina State, who's also apparently pretty good, but also East Carolina is just way better. I'm not worried.
From the playoff to losing to 19th ranked Arkansas. I mean, how the mighty have fallen.
Bob. Correct.
I mean,
well,
who ended up getting the start, Dennis?
I outlined this in detail.
Fraud.
Yeah, Ben Bryant started. So
that was I mean, no wonder you lost.
The Eastern Michigan pocket passer. No, 325 yards, 2 tubs. I was not concerned with Ben Bryant's performance. He played very well. The main running back that we used was actually the LSU transfer, Corey Kiner. He had a touchdown, 60 yards. So, I mean, just as I predicted that we'd lose week 1 to Arkansas. This was my actual guess. My official locked in prediction was that it would be a close game that we would fall short in. And that's exactly what happened. So I have no regrets with my analysis of the UC Bearcats.
No, Dennis, I think your analysis was actually pretty spot on. I will give credit where credit's due. Cincinnati hung tough in a tough environment. But does that give you any pause moving into the Big 12, Dennis, that you just can't hang in those big stadiums?
No, it doesn't give me pause heading into the Big 12 because I think everybody knows that we're not gonna run the table by any means. And also, all the Big 12 teams are not Arkansas.
How the mighty have fallen. The UC Bearcats undefeated college football playoff appearance a year ago, and now all of a sudden we're going to be middle of the road Big 12. Where's the pride?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you now, especially with the expanded playoff, I mean, you're gonna look like you made a massive blunder going to be middle of the pack in the Big 12 when you could have wrote your ticket every year in the American.
No, I mean, I don't necessarily think that analysis is true. I think above middle of the pack in the Big 12 is positively.
Well, what sport are we talking?
I mean, we did lose by a touchdown to a ranked SEC team. Let's not get it twisted. Let's not say that Arkansas is worse than all the Big 12 teams.
I like I said, I like to jive UC where I can, but I did want to give them credit for hanging tough, ranked opponent to start the year. A lot of turnover. You no longer have your 4-year starter Desmond Ridder. No longer have one of the best cornerbacks of college football last year, Sauce Gardner, and his partner in crime, Kobe Bryant. So, I'll give them a little credit, but are you worried about your outlook in the American, or did Houston's heart attack with UTSA reaffirm some hope for you?
No, this is reaffirmed 11-1 for me at this point. I mean, we got Kennesaw State coming up. I think
UC is going to run the table from here on out.
Yeah, that's what I said preseason. I'm sticking by that. So far, I haven't been wrong. So I have reason to believe that the 11-1 prediction is going to come true. I have faith. They showed enough promise and fight and real talent, honestly, to me that I was very impressed from what I saw out of the UC Bearcats this weekend. Obviously, it's not the result that you want. It's a little disappointing. We did have a couple opportunities. It was really just, turnovers. We just had a couple untimely turnovers, and so that's the kind of thing that you can clean up and move forward from. And in the American Conference, and like you said, Derek, Houston was by no means impressive. So it looks good for UC.
Bob, is Luke Fickell a fraud?
Since he officially didn't come to Michigan State, yes, he's a fraud. Thankfully he didn't, because we found the future, even better future. And I think it's just classic. The big, when UC moves to the Big 12, as we talked about, it's going to be a big fish in a small pond becoming a small fish in a big pond, and that is going to be trouble at the seams for the Bearcats. Unfortunately, they better learn how to swim quick, because it could get turbulent in the waters of the Big 12.
Bobby, I'm glad you clarified on the Luke Fickell thing, because I was about to shout at the top of my lungs, check the tapes. I remember Bobby being very uneasy about Luke Fickell coming to Michigan State, and I was taken aback. We got it on a podcast. He was, I hope we don't hire Luke Fickell because, let's not go to the American. And I was, dead set against that attitude. So that's not,
Well, maybe
Talking about
prior Bobby was, looking out for current Bobby because, that's some solid analysis. I mean, Luke Fickell is. I mean, when you're only competing against East Carolina every year, I mean, are you really gonna be ready for the rigor of the Big Ten season?
I mean, I
Bob-
think I kind of win that analysis though, because you said that before Luke Fickell led the UC Bearcats to the college football playoff, and that seems like success to me.
I mean, Mark D'Antonio did that, and he's no longer with us.
Yeah, but Mark D'Antonio is not there.
True.
But he
Great
ain't there.
counterpoint.
What'd you say?
But you weren't bringing him back, so you needed somebody else to do it.
And now we got our man. I mean,
Yeah,
we would have been
speaking of
in the playoff last year had it been expanded.
Speaking of
But
your
we
man,
were.
Bob, Tuck Cumming, a one-score game with lowly Western Michigan, deep into the fourth quarter. Is that any cause for concern that
Luke Fickell?
that there's some offensive real falling off the cliff, may I say, of the MSU offense after the departure of Kenneth Walker?
As I said prior to the season, there was probably not going to be one man that could fill the shoes, but I saw some encouraging signs from multiple running backs. I mean, I believe we had about 120, 130 yard rusher in that game, so I mean, nothing to be ashamed of there. We also did cover the spread against Western. I would like to point that out.
That was a backdoor cover if I've ever seen one.
But our defense was able to create some timely turnovers. You can't fault us for that. I mean, we're like I said last pod, were we sloppy in some aspects? Yes. However, we were sloppy in some aspects and still covered. I can't be mad about it. Were there throws that Payne Thorne missed that I think he will normally make? Yes. However, my prediction for the season was that we were going to take a step back. So, I'm hopeful. I very much hope to be wrong. I think all signs from basically all the other MSU fans that I've heard they've been the sights have been much higher than they have been for me. But so I'm hopeful I'm wrong. But I think that this year's like I said at the beginning of the season, it's not going to be anything to write home about. I think next season hopefully will be the year for us.
Fair, unbiased analysis, as always, coming from Bobby Epler. What was
Thank
your
you.
preseason prediction again?
I believe it was 7-6, maybe.
Was it 7-5?
7-5, 7-5. Yeah, I believe.
Cupcake next week or Washington next week?
We've got Akron next week.
That's right, Zippy baby, not Zippy.
Zippy.
Yep, Akron
There was
next
a
week,
small
and
little
then
dig at unbiased analysis from Bobby Epler.
Bob's pretty truthful when it comes to how he feels about MSU.
I agree. It was just I was noticing a slight dig, only mentioning Bobby Epler as unbiased analysis.
I mean,
well, Dennis, perhaps if you provided some unbiased, analysis of UC, you would also fall into that category.
I mean, I didn't say it. I didn't say it,
it.
Dennis. But yeah, I mean, no, I'm excited for our year. Like I was, I have a lot of excitement for MSU football, like I do every year. I don't know. Washington, like I said in preseason analysis, Washington. If we win that game, I think that's when my sights might start to.
Is it time to drink the green?
To be a little
Kool-Aid
bit
at that
higher,
point?
but until that point. I mean, Washington, they haven't really been that good recently, but it's still an away, nighttime, primetime game against, a Power 5 team. So, I mean, they're not ranked or anything special, but, it's a game that's going to have some adversity. You got to go out and get it done if you're gonna be anything better than just a skating to bowl eligibility team. And so that's when I'm going to really have to be doing some more unbiased analysis, which I bring every week on, like Dennis.
Speaking of Dennis, who do you have week 2?
Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw.
Are they even Division 1? Are they even?
Dennis, I mean, I know Michigan's non-conference schedule is soft, but Kennesaw State, they might even be worse than Hawaii.
Yeah, well, at least we have a Power Five non-conference game schedule.
Well, what good is that when you lose?
Well, we haven't lost to Indiana yet, so there's going to be a dub.
Well, thank goodness for that. Speaking of cup, yeah. Speaking of our non-conference, non-Power Five, including schedule, Michigan handled business as they should have against Colorado State. I won't talk too much about that game's recap. Instead, feel free to check out my recent article on the Garbage Time Takes website, in which I break down all of the key takeaways that I felt were important from that game. But let's just say Cade McNamara is in trouble because J.J. McCarthy, I think, is about to blow Hawaii out of the water next week and really take the QB job. He's going to force it out of the coach's decision. And I think after next week, J.J. will be the starter from here on out.
You know,
Can you really tell who is better when you get to blow out Hawaii and Colorado State back to back?
Well, here's the thing, Dennis. I was expecting Cade McNamara to throw, and you'll see this in the article as well. I was expecting him to be better than 50% completions, with his one touchdown being a 61-yard screen pass. When you face a team like Colorado State, that's a game where you should be nearly perfect passing, and he was anything but. And with all of the preseason talk about how much he improved his mechanics, improved his footwork, improved his athleticism, improved this, that in his post-game conference, saying that he thought he had the best camp he's ever had, and then he came out looking like that. He had me fooled.
You know, I'd just like to point out in another bit of unbiased Bobby analysis that, previous seasons, I don't know if this was ever recorded on the pod, I've been banging my side of the table proverbially saying that why in the world is McCarthy not starting for this Michigan team? He's always been way too good of an athlete to not get his time in the sun. So I hope next week he blows the brakes off it. Well, no, unbiasedly, I'm going to say that that I hope that he, gets the opportunity. But from Michigan State bias, I hope obviously Michigan plays the worst possible quarterback. But for Michigan unbiased, I think McCarthy will probably prove, like you said, Derek, that he's the man. But I mean, the bloodline is certainly good in that family. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean,
Bobby, they always say you should ask yourself, what does the other team want us to do, and do the exact opposite of that. So if Michigan State fans are saying, please start Cade McNamara, then maybe Michigan will do the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, this is the largest point spread, I believe, in Michigan football history, 50 points. I think this is the first time we ever reached 50 points in the spread. So expecting an absolute blowout, and I'm very appreciative, don't get it twisted, very appreciative for Cade McNamara last season. Last season was last season, and I'm focused on this season and who will help Michigan be the best football team that they can be. And through 1 week, I don't think Cade's that guy. So maybe I'll be proven wrong, and JJ will be an absolute train wreck next week. But in my, I'm a big believer in 5 stars going to 5-star, and that's what he is. So,
I mean, quick question for you: if he is a train wreck next week, are you concerned?
Extremely.
About Michigan football, just in general.
Extremely. I mean, I know we know what we have in Cade. My only concern is that, it just won't be good enough this year. It was good enough last year. But again, last year was last year, and I would just worry that for this year it wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's concerning that how far he got you last year, and it's still a competition. The fact that there's
here's the thing. Here's the thing. I trust Jim Harbaugh. Always have. Even though I haven't always agreed with him, I trust Coach Harbaugh. I think what this was a way for him to not only show Cade, but to show the coaching staff and the rest of the Michigan fan base, I gave him a chance in week 1 to come out and take the starter's job by the horns. He didn't do it. JJ's our guy. That's what I think. I think this was it was an open competition by word But this job, I think, has been JJ's for quite some time. And this sort of faux open competition was purely to say, clearly, JJ is our guy. And that way the Michigan fan base can't, you know, hound for a preseason decision. Because all over social media, all I hear is JJ hasn't proved anything against any good teams yet. All he did was fumble the game away against MSU. All he did was come in garbage time. All he did was run. And for a decision to be made before the season, I could have seen unrest and turmoil in the Michigan fan base to not have Cade be the starter week one when JJ didn't show anything last year. And so now he's given Cade a chance to show what he's got. Next week, JJ's finally going to get his turn to show what he's got. And it'll, you know, I think this decision that Cade is QB1 has been made for a long time. And this open competition was simply a formality.
Just tell, last point on this, just tell JJ to save all of his fumbles for when they see us. That's all I have to say.
When is that game? When is that Michigan State game? I'm looking forward to it.
I believe it is October 29th.
I was going to say, I thought it was the couple days before Halloween.
The day, it always takes place every year right by my birthday, and it'll be the day after this year.
Saturday Scaries. Hopefully it'll be, tricks and treats for Michigan and not the other way around.
We got to rock.
That'll be tricks for Michigan State if Bobby has anything.
That's right, trickery, baby.
I'm fully expecting it. One last thing, just because Arizona football performed so well, wanted to give them a shout out for defeating San Diego State this year. Previous 12-win team, San Diego State. Arizona was 1-16 in their last 17 games. So a lot of confidence riding into this home opener this weekend against Mississippi State, hoping to do big things against an SEC opponent.
Yeah, I noticed. I was going to point that out and just get a little dig in. I noticed that Arizona was even able to schedule a Power 5 non-conference opponent in Mississippi State. So I was happy to see that.
Ouch.
Even the Wildcats.
Listen, I said it on the last podcast too. We had a date with UCLA scheduled, and with their decision to join the Big Ten, it messed everything up. And so otherwise we would have been beating UCLA's cheeks in a home-and-home series this year and next year. But alas, things don't always work out.
I won't.
I would expect nothing less from Bobby Epler. Anyway, enough college football talk. Ohio State did beat Notre Dame. We'll recap that a little bit more when we get to garbage time. Takes your money. But other than that, any other big college football stuff we wanted to get into or move on into the NFL?
Nothing from me.
Well, sounds good to me. UNC is overrated. LSU is overrated. And Florida State, regardless of their win, is still mid. Thank you very much. NFL talk. Season starts tomorrow for those on the East Coast. It starts today. Thursday Night Football, Bills-Rams, defending Super Bowl champions against proverbial preseason Super Bowl champions. Football's back in its full glory, the return of the NFL. Yes, we got college football for a week, but this is how we really truly know football is back when the NFL joins college football in entertainment primetime television. Dennis, what are you looking for in the first game of the season?
And you put it beautifully. I'm just looking for some football. I'm so excited. This is just a glorious time of year with college football coming back last week, fully last week. The NFL is back in action. And I've always kind of been more of an NFL guy myself. And so this is just really it's just really exciting. And it's going to be a good game. Usually the Thursday night games are a little, I don't know if I,
Jags,
want to put too much into this. Yeah, exactly. They're a little AFC South, to put it better, to put it in good terms. But this, they picked a good opener. It should be anyway, in theory. I think it's in LA. I think
so, yep.
And so, the defending Super Bowl champs get to host. Obviously, they're bringing back a lot of guys that they had on the Super Bowl roster last year. No Odell. we'll see the premiere of Allen Robinson in a Rams uniform.
No Von Miller.
Adding
Cam
Bobby
Akers should be
Wagner as
back.
well.
And yes, Bobby Wagner as well. And I think the thing that I'm most interested to see from the Rams side of things is Cam Akers. And the reason I say that is because he came back a little bit in the playoffs there, coming off of his Achilles injury, and did not look good at all. Even in the Super Bowl, he looked pretty bad. They really won that game, on their defense and with Matthew Stafford. And so the Rams, there's been this whole thing about how, Cam Akers is probably the guy. They still got Darrell Henderson there. I'm really going to be curious to see what Sean McVay does and what the game plan is, because I really don't know. I don't know how impressed they are with him coming back off his injury, if they think he can be, the main ball carrier, how much Darrell Henderson is going to be involved. That's what I'm curious to see. On the Buffalo side of things, they have a trio of running backs now, and nobody really knows what to do with them either. You got Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and Dalvin Cook's little brother James. So I kind of feel like James Cook is just better than both of them. But I'm curious to see how that actually pans out, and if that's true at all. I know.
Yeah, it would be good for mine,
I have
too.
fantasy brain. Because he, in theory, will be the receptions guy. Utilized a lot of screens and passing downs and that sort of thing. So I think I got to lean Buffalo. I just really like their outlook for the season. We talked about it already. I've just got to ride with Josh Allen over a slightly hurt Matthew Stafford, but it should be a good game. It really should.
I was glad you brought that up, because that was going to play into my analysis a little bit too. Stafford has been, I think, protected would be a good word to use throughout the preseason and offseason. They've been really trying to, monitor that elbow and all of its problems. He's had throwing arm problems all the way back in his time in Detroit. And obviously he's a warrior. He's going to fight through it. But if that game with Buffalo turns into a shootout and he's got to throw 35, 40, even 45 passes, you start to worry about sort of the integrity of that throwing arm as the game progresses. For me, I made it very clear in some of our previous podcasts that the Bills are my number one team in the AFC. And I think, for me anyway, they're a pretty clear number one. They're my clear-cut Super Bowl favorite. I know it's a pretty trendy pick right now, but I was big on Buffalo last year. I think if they win the coin toss, they probably end up, facing Cincinnati in the conference championship. Whether or not they make it to the Super Bowl is, you can't say for certain. But they're a team that I think only got better. They just extended Dawson Knox, added James Cook. Josh Allen's got another year under his belt. That defense isn't going anywhere. And I just think that the Rams don't really have home field advantage with all of the Rams fans circa 2021. And so, for me, I expect it to be a good, close game, and it'll be the perfect start to the NFL football season.
Who do you got in that one? The Bills then, Derek?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm riding Buffalo as well. Bills Mafia. Let's ride.
You see, I just have all kinds of trouble with this game because you have, maybe this is just in my mind, but this is where I'm coming from the analysis from. You have a team that even though they're the Super Bowl champions, I've just never really had a lot of faith in, the Rams, and another team in the Bills that also I've never really had a lot of faith in. They've always been talented, but have they ever been able to win the one that mattered? Also up for debate. So, but like you guys said, I think that you guys were on the right track with this one. I think that this will be a good game. However, I don't think. I think I don't know what I'm going to get from Stafford. I don't know what I'm going to get from. I know I'm going to get his all, but will his all be good enough if he's limited? Who knows? I don't know what I'm going to get from Cam Akers in the running game. The Bills have everything they need to get this done. Maybe even you call it an upset since they're the defending Super Bowl champions. But I think I'm going to make the trio. I'm going to go Bills in this one too. However, touch this game with a 20-foot pole on any sort of bets because I don't really have any sort of faith in either of these teams in the big game. I mean, for the LA Rams, I think, I don't really see them going back to a Super Bowl this year. So I don't really. I think that last year could have been an anomaly in that sense. That's just my own take, though.
And you touched on it just a second ago, and that was going to be my final point. Was Matthew Stafford is an absolute warrior, and he's been battling through this for how long? He's going to keep fighting through it, and it's not really. At least my understanding is the injury doesn't really affect his play at all. It's just incredibly painful.
Right.
And so it's just something that he has to almost play through, which is why they've limited him through the preseason. You don't want your quarterback to be in lots of pain. So it makes a lot of sense why they've done what they've done. He's a really tough dude. He's proven that time and time again. But like Derek said, down the stretch, if it turns into a shootout, which it very well could with Buffalo, I don't know. That's a little dicey.
Yeah, it's pretty much just like a tendinitis from what I understood in his elbow. It's the same thing he dealt with throughout 2021. And so we'll see what happens. He's a year older now, though, so maybe that elbow isn't healing quite as fast as, it normally would. But that's not the game that really matters. Yeah, it's cool and all. But what really matters are two games. The Detroit Football Lions and the Cincinnati Bengals returning to action. Dennis, we'll start with you because I think Bob has got some very, deep, exciting Honolulu blue Kool-Aid thoughts on the Lions. And so perhaps the Bengals have a little bit, more of a straightforward analysis here from you.
Well, I'm in on the Honolulu blue Kool-Aid as well. I mean, I've been making that abundantly clear, but I'm sure Bobby has some really good points. Yeah, I'm excited.
Unbiased, of
course. This is the first time. Unbiased from you or from me?
From me.
No, okay. Unbiased because Bobby's unbiased, of course. And this analysis will be completely biased, I'm sure, given the subject of the Cincinnati Bengals. However, we open with Pittsburgh. It's in Cincinnati at newly named Paycor Stadium. Well done by the Brown family. And so,
you mean to tell me you weren't a fan of Paul Brown Stadium?
I mean, I love Paul Brown Stadium, and we could get into that another time. But they did the right thing for the right reason, even if it cost the name of the stadium being Paul Brown. They did it for the good of the franchise, and I do believe that it will be utilized as such. So as long as they do that, and by that I mean paying Joe Burrow when the time comes, and Jamar Chase when the time comes, then I'm all for it. As far as week one goes, really just excited to see this team on the field and playing football. That means something. Joe Burrow is going to be out there. We didn't really see him at all this preseason. Obviously, he had the appendectomy. It's a little concerning that he didn't really get any reps in, but he's familiar with that. We had the 2020 season, which was his first, which was all out of whack. And then last season, he didn't play at all in the preseason coming off of his gruesome injury from 2020. So I'm not overly concerned about that. Being in Cincinnati, it's going to be a packed house. I love to hear that, and that's going to be an advantage. We're completely healthy. I think the spread is at, what did we say, Bobby? 6.5. It was at 7.5, and maybe it's been bet down. The public likes Pittsburgh, I guess. So I would tend to take the touchdown to take us to win by a touchdown or more. That's obviously probably biased analysis, but here's the thing. Pittsburgh's offensive line, not good.
Terrible.
It's just not good.
Pittsburgh's quarterback, I'll add this. Pittsburgh's quarterback, terrible. I've seen him.
Bob, how can you disrespect the MVP like that?
That should tell you all you need to know right there. I mean, when your crowning achievement is the MVP. Oh, boy.
I'm not going to sit and defend Mitch Trubisky. I don't know how anybody possibly could. However, all I will say is that his time in Chicago was one where Chicago had a lot of problems, not only him, and he can't blame for all of them. And we might not know. Maybe Mitch, as a Bengals fan going into week one, and this is just what I told you earlier, what I told you guys earlier with what the opposing team wants you to do. I wanted Pittsburgh to start Kenny Pickett because I thought we could absolutely run him into the ground. Like, he just doesn't look good at all. And so I was very confident we could beat Kenny Pickett. I'm also really confident we could beat Mitch Trubisky. But it elicits a little more fear.
You know, long track record of teams beating Mitch Trubisky, Dennis. I'll tell you that much. I mean, except for the Lions. But
except the Lions.
But I digress. You know, I'll say this: if Mitch was still in Chicago, we'd be getting our revenge. Don't you worry about that.
Definitely, this year for sure. And I am not all that concerned about Mitch because of the offensive line struggles that they have, and he's just not talented enough to be able to deal with that on his own. And I have a lot of confidence in the Bengals especially this week one. There's going to be some games along the line throughout the season that'll be tougher, but I'm all in on, the black and orange stripes this weekend.
One question for you, Dennis. One question.
Go for it. Shoot.
If Pittsburgh does the unthinkable this week, where is your morale going to be at? If Mitch Trubisky comes into Paycor Stadium, the first ever regular season game in Paycor Stadium, and Cincinnati blows their diaper, what are you going to do? Like, what's going to be the mindset? It's all lost after that.
I think it's not. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's zero reason that any season should be lost after week one, even if it's losing to crappy Pittsburgh.
Trust me, I've seen it many times. It can happen, Dennis. I've seen it many times. It can happen.
No, I understand that. And I think it's a valid question because, anything's possible, right? That's why they play the games, and you never quite know. And in that vein, I don't quite know where my morale would be at. Check back next week if Pittsburgh does the unthinkable, and we'll find out where my morale is. It's probably going to be lower than I'm going to sit here and tell you right now. But in 17 games to prove yourself over the course of an 18-week season, week one is not the end of the world. Do I think and expect us to win? Absolutely. Is it all over? Sign the score sheets if we don't? No. It's going to be a bit of a hit, but Pittsburgh has always been a tough spot for Cincinnati. It's a rivalry game. They're our biggest rival. We've always struggled with them a little bit, even when they've had not great teams. And so to just expect a bulldozer victory is a little outlandish, and I need to, temper expectations a little bit, just in case.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, don't mind me. I'm trying to Google how many teams start 0-1 and still make the playoffs.
Oh, that's good. I mean, probably a lot.
Here we go. This is a 2020 article about teams that have started 0-2 and made the playoffs. It's going to make me count all of these. 17, 18, 19, 20. About 20 teams have started 0-2 and made the playoffs. But I'm not seeing anything about about starting 0-1.
I mean, I gotta imagine. Hopefully, the numbers for Dennis's sake, following week one won't be too drastic. So his team can right the ship. But Dennis, it is that aspect of intra-divisional play already in week one. I mean, not the kind of game you want to just let slip past you out of your gaze.
I will say this: 75% of teams that start 3-0 make the playoffs, and 50% of teams that start 2-0 make the playoffs. So, winning early does seem to be somewhat of a barometer for postseason potential success. I'm with Dennis, though. I've got the Bengals winning and winning rather handily. like you said so eloquently, that the Steelers line is a sieve. Even the Lions, second string guys were tearing them up pretty good. The first string guys, especially, were making life very difficult on the O line. Uh, I don't see how the Steelers can score enough points, to match Cincinnati, even with, guys like TJ Watt and the Steelers' defensive line. I just don't think it matters. Bob, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts on
I mean,
fragile Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Cincinnati should win. You better hope that Mitch doesn't beat you, or I'm going to be acting a fool next week.
Here's my prediction for how this game goes. Cincinnati gets the ball first, scores an opening drive touchdown. Pittsburgh comes back. They score an opening drive touchdown. Bengals get the ball back. We'll put up a score. Pittsburgh's going to turn it over. We'll go up like 10 or 14 and not look back.
Very specific prediction from Dennis Weaver. We'll see if it pays off. But now it's time to get to the Honolulu Blue and Silver, Bob. Some big news. Hal Vaitai is out for the first 4 weeks of the season on injured reserve, so the Lions will have to wait 4 more weeks at least for the starting 5 offensive line dream team to actually make a start and play through a whole game together. But that aside, the hype around this team due to Hard Knocks is real. The offense is one of the highest paid in the league. The defense is improved, but to what extent do we know? Ford Field, for the first time in a long time, is selling standing room only tickets for a non-Thanksgiving game. First time in a long time. How do you see the Lions faring against the Dirty Birds on Sunday?
Derek, I want the amount of, just the sheer want in me for the Birds to meet their demise in week 1 against I know it's the Eagles, and the Eagles, aren't, by any means a super team, but they're a team that has expectations. They're a team that has, a real chance of winning a division. And so, how many times have we seen it, in previous years, Derek, where we get a game against either a very good team, or a team that around the Eagles level where they're still a good team, but, not a very good team. And it's like, okay, if we hang tight with them the whole game, something doesn't bounce our way at the end. And it was like the Super Bowl for us. It's, if that a couple bounces went our way, maybe our season's off on a different note. Maybe, the morale gets going. We're, instead of, 0-3 by the third week, we're 2-1 or something along those lines. You know what I'm talking about.
I do, very much so.
This is that kind of game that I think if we can just punch them right in the throat to start, take the bull by the horn, so to speak. I think this is got to be a tone setter. This is, I hate to say it, but it almost seems like a must win for the Detroit Lions coming right out of the gate. We've got it too many times. This franchise history, as Dan Campbell well knows, the support for the team and the just the spirit in the locker room dives after about the first 4 weeks of the season. Lions fans, they don't have short memory, but they are always they're always open to new beginnings. They're always back every year, diving their faith unnecessarily back into the team, probably. This year, they're going to be back again, like you said, standing room only at Ford Field. The fans, the community, the state, they're ready to invest. And quite simply because of that sheer want and expectation, clouding my judgment, I'm sure, but I had high hopes for this team going into the year. The Detroit Lions get it done in a tight, relatively low-scoring ball game. Jalen Hurts doesn't look like a world beater week 1. Doesn't have it quite figured it out yet. Jared Goff, just enough of an above-average game manager to get it done. The defense bends a lot, but doesn't break a lot. And that is exactly what we need. I've got the Lions in this one 24-21. That's the score I'm putting on this one. Getting it done right down to the wire. I predict that the Lions D makes a stop. If I had to guess, the Lions D makes a stop and the Eagles have the ball at the last second.
Bob, I'll tell you this much. Your unwavering faith in the Lions to not finish last in the NFC North
it just quite simply cannot happen again. I mean, Derek, you know how many times I've said it's been a leap year. A leap year of last place. It's either 4, I think it's 4, last place NFC North finishes. We cannot make it a half a decade. We cannot make it a half a decade. Here's
the thing, Bob. The Lions have not won their Week 1 matchup since 2017.
We're due.
In which they beat the Arizona Cardinals at home 35-23. And the years following, they lost at home to the Jets on Monday night in Matt Patricia's very first game, and we were embarrassed by none other than Sam Darnold. At Arizona the following year, in one of the worst fourth quarter collapses I've ever seen, where Matt Patricia completely threw away the game, and we ended up tying that game with Arizona. I remember coming back from my intramural soccer game and being in utter distraught disbelief. The following year, at home against the Chicago Bears, lost 23-27 to Mitch Trubisky. Again.
Better not be you, guys. Better not be you.
And then last year, losing to the 49ers 41-33 in a game that wasn't close and then all of a sudden became very close. Couple onside kick recoveries, and that game got very sweaty real quick. But here's the thing.
Derek, don't tell me you're going to fold on us. Don't tell me the Birds, who haven't proven diddly, or the quarterback who hasn't proven diddly, are going to beat us in Week 1.
Bob, the same quarterback that hasn't proven diddly beat us by like 40 points last year. I don't know if you remember. I think they had a nearly identical score to Michigan beating Colorado State.
Derek, it's a new year.
That doesn't happen in the NFL. Derek, it just doesn't happen.
Derek, it's a new year.
Unless your team is garbage. The Lions this year are not garbage. However, I am not convinced that the linebacking core, that the run defense is where it needs to be to stop a team that put up over 200 yards rushing on your dome last year.
No.
And as much as I love the offense and as much as I love Aiden Hutchinson, until I see it on the field, I cannot, in good faith, predict a Detroit Lions.
Lions 3.5, Derek, 3.5.
And I believe it. I believe that this will be a close game. I don't think we're going to get blown out. But at the same time, until proven otherwise, it is very difficult for me to predict a Lions win. I want it just as bad as anyone else.
The standing room only, Derek. We can't lose with standing room only. This is just. It seems like so much is riding on this. It really does. It really does feel like it. To me, at least, it feels like a Super Bowl.
I am 100% minus 1% in agreement with you. That just this has the feel of like you're coming off Hard Knocks. You've got all this hype. You've got improved defense, improved offense, standing room only for the Detroit Lions.
When does that happen?
Rarely. And so to me, yes, it also does have the feel of a must-win game in order for the fan base to not be completely deflated after a Week 1 loss.
That's because that's what's going to happen. It's just going to, like I said, it's just going to be a nosedive right off the cliff.
But at the same time, if we were to lose a one-possession game in a manner that which was not by us failing to close.
Or by the refs.
Well, even if the refs, it would be very painful if the refs took it away from us.
Which has happened many times.
The Lions often find ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
That is true.
A lot of times we give the victory to our opponents. If we lose a one-possession game where Philadelphia earns it and takes it from us and we don't just give it to them. There are no moral victories in football, but I would come away convinced and sort of encouraged that maybe this team is going to be able to do more than win 3 games and will be able to, do better than just 10-7 against the spread. I'd like to be 10-7 against the spread and 10-7 in the regular season. But I just want to be competitive. I want to show that our run defense is improved from last year, that our personnel is improved from last year. I just want to see improvement. Because like Dan Campbell said in Hard Knocks, we're looking for this. We're looking for this steady incline of improvement. The season is not won and lost in week 1, although it's very nice to have that week 1 win.
Although by the second week, it sounds like statistically it can be.
Correct. But fortunately, we get Washington week 2, and we'll save our analysis for that for next week. But I just cannot,
about to say,
I cannot in good faith lie to the viewers and say that I am predicting the Lions win. I can't do it. I can't do it. It would go against the article I wrote. Feel free to check that one out on the Garbage Time Takes website also. But yeah, I just can't do it. I'd love it. I'm rooting for it. I'm pulling for it. I'm excited for it. But I have not yet injected myself with Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid. Dennis.
I was just about to say, the good news, and I agree with you there, both of you, that there is a lot riding on this first week. You got the standing room only thing going on, coming off Hard Knocks, all that kind of stuff. Completely get it. However, I think Bobby said it, those first 4 weeks crucial. Philadelphia, Washington, Minnesota, Seattle. That does not sound like anything
games.
Close to 0-4 to me. And
4 very winnable games, Dennis.
Correct. And then New England, which is not necessarily a world beater either. So I see what you're saying, and I'm with you. But I think that, if you take those first 4 games, especially as a chunk, as a whole, if you're 2-2 or better, that is enough to get people to believe. At that point, when you're heading to New England and then the bye week, people are believing because you haven't had that in how many years? You were 0-7 to start last year? Like, the thing is, you get deflated. That locker room gets deflated after you've had 4 heart-wrenching losses in a row. That's the point. 3 or 4 of those heart-wrenching, gutted out, but couldn't come up with the losses in a row. That's when you're deflated. If you lose 1 week to Philadelphia, it's not over yet. And nobody thinks it is. You're 0-4. Now people are like, well, nothing's going right. It's over.
Dennis, I appreciate. See, Dennis, you may not always be unbiased, but I can always count on you when it comes to the Lions with an outsider perspective to be unbiased. So where do you see what will you be putting down as your result in our CBS Pick'em group?
The CBS Pick'em group, here's the thing. I go back and forth on it. I understand both points. You guys both laid out why you would, why would you choose the Lions and why, Derek? A little skeptical.
Before you give your answer, Dennis, Bob, hedge your bets. Who's Dennis taking?
Oh, Dennis is taking the blue.
Dennis is taking the blue.
Dennis is taking
I
the
have
blue.
him going with it. I have him going with his shirt color and taking the Eagles.
I put a lot of thought into this.
Sure.
As much as it breaks my heart, it's the shirt.
I told you.
And I don't think that it's going to end the Lions season. I don't think it stops the Lions from making the playoffs. I just think that, unfortunately, this Philadelphia team is just a little bit better. And to your point,
there's
Derek,
nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
44-6 last season. 44-6 a season ago.
Okay.
Not enough has changed, and I haven't seen enough. And if I'm wrong, I will be very grateful that I'm wrong, and I will be happy that I was wrong, and I will take it with elatement and excitement. But I think here's the thing though. I think you lose, but I think I see enough to say you beat Washington, you beat Seattle, like confidently, going into those matchups. Going at least into Washington. I mean, we'll see how we get there, but I think I'm going to see enough to gain confidence, even though it's not a W in the win column.
I appreciate your level-headed take there, Dennis, because I'm right there with
Sorry,
you.
Bobby.
Really.
I'm sorry.
If we
But
don't
for
start,
a second, Bob, let's envision the 4-0 Detroit Lions. Let's envision
Derek,
that.
I don't want to hear that from you, dude. You haven't injected diddly squab Honolulu. I don't want to see any envisioning from you.
That's why I'm letting you envision it, Bob.
Oh, I'm envisioning it. I'm envisioning it.
Philadelphia, winnable game. I never said Philadelphia is not a winnable game. Philadelphia, winnable game. Washington, certainly winnable. Minnesota, certainly winnable, even though playing at Minnesota is an absolute house of horrors. Seattle, they still don't know if Geno Smith they said Geno Smith's going to be their quarterback. By the time week 4, that could be Drew Lock or some other bozo from Tacoma, Washington High School. Bob, are you picturing the 4-0 start?
I really.
And the pandemonium.
Here's the thing for me. If this season doesn't start off 3-1 through the first 4 weeks, I think we're just bound for 7. So what would it be 7-10,
10,
8-9. I think we're just bound for mediocrity, and for me, after all that's going into the season, would that be the result that's probably most likely for the Lions? Yes. However, given the fact, given the hype around the season, and the fact that a lot of things within our division for maybe the first time in a while have been pointing towards, maybe we have more of a chance than we normally do. I don't know. It'd be sad for me. But 4-0 is on the horizon. I'm very, very hopeful. I think I said that we split with the Vikings in my predictions, but I said we split with the Vikings. I was really thinking that we have a chance to sweep. And I know that's unlikely, but I'm really, really hoping that at Minnesota, whatever week, what is that? Week 3, we set the tone. I'm really hoping it's the Eagles week 1, but week 3, because at 2-2 we beat the the Commanders and the Seahawks. That just proves that we're not the bottom 4 teams in the league. Sure, I guess that's improvement from where we were, but I don't want to. That's not what I'm fighting for here. That's not what we got behind as a fan base. Going into Hard Knocks, we got some results. This is what people have been talking about. The new regime of ownership, the new regime of coaching and general management. They know it's a process, but we also know that we need definitive results. And so I don't know. It's just for me. That's why I'm drinking the blue, because I really think that these are the people that can bring us there. And maybe I'm like a lot of Lions fans. I'm impatient. I want it to be this year. And I know realistically, is it probably going to be this year with Jared Goff as our quarterback? No, but thinking from a fan perspective, should it be this year? Are things in place that it could be this year? Yes, and so I've just got a high ceiling right now.
Here's what I want to throw over to you, Dennis.
Yeah.
If the Lions double their win total, either at 6 games or 7 games, to me, that would be a fairly successful season. You come off of Bob shaking his head.
No.
3-13-1.
No, that's not
hardly any talent, and you double your win total. You beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. I think that's the important part. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Jacksonville, the Giants, the Jets, the Bears. You start small, because for the Lions to go from practically winless a season ago to all of it jumping to 11, 12 wins, not many teams do that. And for me, this roster is still, especially defensively, not at the point where that just to me seems realistic. It's sure fun to envision, but I mean, you can only turn over the roster of a 3-win team so much in 1 year. And for me, at the very least, doubling the win total, hitting the over on the Vegas odds, I'd have to think that from an organizational standpoint, that would be a largely successful season.
Are you just asking if I agree?
Yeah, just asking what you think about that. As a Bengals fan who has lived through the rebuild and seen a successful rebuild happen, how do you see the Lions rebuild, and is that reasonable, or should Lions fans be expecting and deserving more after such a bad season last year?
And that's what I was going to say. I'm glad you brought up the Bengals thing, because I expected less last year out of Cincinnati than I got. And I'm hopeful, given that perspective, that is Lions and Lions fans this year, that you're expecting, we were 2-14 back in 2019, 2020, 4-11-1, given Burrow was hurt. And then 10-7 win the division. So the 4-11-1 jumping to 10-7 is impressive and unexpected. I had us at I don't know. I think going into the season I was looking for 8-9 that year. A 4-game jump, and so I understand
slowly doubling the win total.
It's only realistic to say, okay, we only won 3 games a year ago. How are we suddenly going to win double-digit games? I understand how that's unrealistic to say, because I didn't even do it for my own team. However, it is possible. I just saw it. So, would I have considered, this is a good question to ask, would I have considered last year a success for the Bengals if we went 8-9 and missed the last wild card spot in the playoffs? Yes. Yes, I would have. It would have been hard to swallow now because I know what we ended up accomplishing, but at the time, it would have been a success because, you know why? I would have been all the more hopeful going into the next season.
Tangible improvement is what I mark it down to. Tangible improvement. I think if 2 wins to 4 wins to 8 wins is tangible
improvement. There's a
improvement.
trend you can now follow, and you've seen them win games, especially if you see them win a couple of games. I know you talked about winning the games that you're supposed to. Of course, that's always nice to see. But when you win a couple games that you're not supposed to, that's when you really start to have some confidence and really increase the hope that you actually can be that kind of team. And that's what you really want to see. I would almost rather have a heartbreaking loss or two and also be that team that beat the teams that they're not supposed to a couple times over the course of the season, because that factors into the tangible improvement because you can win those games.
I mean, I think for me, in order to consider this season a success, I would have to see 9 wins from this team. I think that's the bar. Because I'm looking at the schedule right now, and if we're going to beat the teams that we should beat, in my mind, maybe this is an optimistic perspective, but I'm being even more pessimistic than what I put them at in my predictions. There's 8 games on the schedule we should win. And I say 9 because I want us to beat one team that we shouldn't win. So, I mean,
we're going to expect them to go 8 for 8 against the teams they should beat. The Bengals lost to the Jets last year.
I mean, sure.
It's just not going to happen.
No, and you know what, Dennis? Exactly. You're 100% correct. But can we beat a team that we shouldn't beat? Maybe do we pick up a game that I don't think we're going to win? I'm even not including the Eagles. And we were talking about maybe we can beat the Eagles. It's a 3.5 point game. I counted that as a loss in this. Maybe our pessimistic prediction, I don't have us beating the Vikings once. Maybe we beat the Vikings once at home. Those are games that, realistically, maybe we shouldn't win. But in order to get to that 9-win mark, we would have to win a game like that. And so, I don't think it's unrealistic that we beat the Bears 2 times this season. I don't think it's unrealistic that we beat the Giants, that we beat the Jets, that we beat the Seahawks, that we beat the Commanders. Like, that's already, up to like 6, and I still haven't mentioned the Jaguars, who I think we should beat. The Panthers, we have a chance of beating. And then that hasn't even mentioned any games against the Packers or Vikings, which we might have a chance in. So, I mean, that's darn near that's basically up to 8 or 9 games right there that I just listed off. So, I mean, is that optimistic that we win every game that we should? Granted, not every very good team wins every game that they should win. However, those teams always seem to win a decent amount of games that they either are hotly contested or shouldn't win. So that's why I'm putting the bar at about 8, maybe 9 wins. But I think that's if we take that step from that last year, we should separate ourselves from some of the teams I just listed.
The schedule definitely works to your favor in that regard. I think I'd like to ask you both a question, just the opposite question that Bobby asked me for the Bengals, and see what you guys think on the Lions. Where's the excitement level if we walk out of Ford Field with a victory on this coming Sunday? Where is the excitement level? Is it still tempered? Is it through the roof?
It is through the roof because I have Philadelphia as a legitimate playoff team. As legitimate as there is a team in the NFC East is an absolute cakewalk, as it always is. They haven't had a repeat division winner in, I can't even remember how many years it's been since a team has won back-to-back. So the odds that the Cowboys do not win the division are high, based on pure historical relevance. The Eagles are a team that last year were very much exposed by the Bucs in the playoffs, but they're a team that only got better. They improved in the passing game. Jalen Hurts has got another year, and even though I've mentioned many times before that I'm still not convinced he's the guy, it's still another extra year of experience, another off season to develop and build chemistry. They have one of the most prolific rushing attacks and offensive lines in the league. And so if you were to be I consider them a bona fide playoff team. 10 wins, 11 wins maybe, certainly at least 9. If you beat a team like that, you've got me thinking we can run the table at that point. Obviously, we aren't running the table, but that's the sort of excitement level I'd have. I'd expect us, if we were to beat Philadelphia, I would expect us to start 5-0, because I would think we could beat New England as well at that point. So for me, the roof could not contain my excitement if we were to win week 1.
I expect it. I expect that we win week 1. I've already said that. And like I said before the season, I think this team, realistically, they will have to play to the ceiling of what maybe most people could expect of them. I think we've got the coaching staff in place to be able to do that. But I would see that as, I would be very, very excited. Obviously, as I've showed in my emotion on this pod, but I would see that as validation for the faith that I've put in them, for the faith that that this is a team that can get to the 10 win mark, can get to the 11 win mark. I mean, like Derek said, there's not a lot of teams on the schedule that if we can beat the Eagles and maintain that level of play, that I'd be like, man, I guess we don't have a chance. Like, we don't really don't have a chance against these guys. Like, it would be a miracle if we won. I mean, certainly if we beat the Eagles week 1, all the teams that I just mentioned to get to like the 8-9 win mark would be basically a given at that point. So it's absolute elation. I mean, like I said, this is almost feels like to me, I don't know what being in a Super Bowl feels like, obviously, but this feels like pretty close to what it would feel like to be in a Super Bowl, because I want them to win that badly. The amount of pain that I would cross my mind if I had to make another bag with a teardrop on it, writing fifth straight last in the NFC North finish. I mean, it's unbearable. I can't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, I wish we had this schedule next year. If we had this schedule next year, I'm confident that 10 wins is that floor. Because, this team is only going. Brad Holmes has done really good through the draft. He's had a couple misses, but really, especially in those mid rounds, 3 to 6, he has really hit. So I just think I just have not seen enough from the defense
Here's the
to
thing, though.
confidently say that we'll win this.
If we
I need
finish,
to see the defense play first.
and I get that, but if we finish with double the wins, say we get to like, I don't know, 6 wins, and double our total from last year, we're not gonna be we have a chance at finishing last in the division at that point at 6 wins. That still puts us within last place range. I'm not feeling confident that clears us of the Bears. So like realistically, we should still be getting pretty weak team. I think the Bears are gonna be horrible. Don't get me wrong, but if we go to 6 wins, that also puts the chances that we're losing to the Bears in question. So at that point. So hopefully, if we had that bad of a season, like by my standards, now 6 wins by some standards would be a success, like we've already outlined. However, we should still be getting some pretty weak teams on our schedule going forward. So I like you said, I hope we'd have this exact schedule next year, but I also think that the following year, if we were to have that result, we would have a pretty favorable schedule.
Yeah. Well, to wrap it up, feel free to leave in the comments section what you think would be a successful season for the Detroit Lions based on what we've discussed here. I'm sure, I hope that our discussion here was fruitful and, we'd be excited to see what everyone else has in mind. With that, I think we'll start to, wind down the show here. Let's get into the Right Bench Ballers, everyone's favorite segment that we all know and love. Dennis, since you were so punctual today, how about you lead us off?
I would absolutely love to, Derek. Sticking in Major League Baseball, with the upcoming NFL season starting, I would imagine that I will not be going to the well that is Major League Baseball too often as we continue to roll along on our podcast here. But this week, I am with none other than Seattle Mariners catcher Cal Riley, who has had a really successful week. He's posted 5 homers over his last 8 games, a double, 11 RBIs, and a 1.43 OPS, and just a lot of production out of Cal. That's my right bench baller of the week.
Bob, you're shaking your head. What's wrong?
Guy's been absolutely hitting nukes all year. So shout out to the man Cal himself, and I'm only a little bit sad, that I couldn't get him in my fantasy league too, because he was a guy I'd been eyeing up for a while. Just didn't have the gall to pull the trigger on him in time to nab him, but I know he's gone to a good home. My right bench baller for this week is none other than Detroit Tiger shortstop Ryan Kreidler, who actually hit his first career. I believe it was his first career, at least first of the season, major league home run today against the Angels, and in a 5-4 victory. Absolutely crucial. I believe he actually hit the home run that put him on top for good in this one. So
it was his first career and the game winner.
That's what I thought. So through the past few weeks, I've been highlighting guys that have gotten recent call-ups and had some recent success. So another feel-good story for Ryan, and I know nobody's watching the Tigers in the dog days of September, unlike me, but I appreciated Ryan's contribution today, and wish him nothing but success moving forward with the Tigers.
Love it. The Tigers, listen, the Tigers are doing a losing season the right way. Call up your promising young players to see what they have to offer, if anything. Spencer Torkelson's back. He hit an absolute nuke to dead center today.
Yep.
So, that's the way to do it. Bring up the young guys, see what they have to offer, and you can get often some really special, moments in those guys' careers. For me, this might come as a surprise to some of you. I'm going to the Michigan football well. And while this man did not pad,
this will be 4 straight weeks of this, folks. Just you wait. It'll be every week. It'll be Michigan football well. You just wait.
Listen. Probably not, but potentially. This man did not pad the stat sheet. He didn't, blow up or do anything too crazy. He'd had 0 passing yards. And on his 2 rushing attempts, he had 4 total yards. And on the 1 rushing attempt on 4th down and goal, late in the 4th quarter, he scored the touchdown. That man was Alex Orji, the man who Robert Griffin III refused to say his last name for the sake of making a crude joke, and then did it anyway. Would highly recommend finding that clip on Twitter or YouTube of Robert Griffin III making a lewd joke about Alex's last name. But I wanted to give a shout out to a man who never quit, getting his first experience of live game action at the University of Michigan and came through on 4th and goal late in the game, showing that until it's all zeros on the scoreboard, you never stop playing the game of football. So Alex Orji, with his 4 yards rushing on 2 attempts and 1 tub, is my right bench baller of the week. Your thoughts, Bob? Did you see the clip?
I didn't see the clip. I'm gonna have to look into that because
it's highly recommend 11 out of 10 clip to everyone who's watching who hasn't seen it already. And with that, Bob,
I'm definitely going to check it out. But I thought you were. Sorry, just real quick. I thought you were going to go with a guy from Arizona, Jacob Cohen. That's why I didn't do him. 152 yards and 3 touchdowns. I know he's been good for like a couple years, or like he was good last year. But out of Arizona.
Correct. Listen, if he wasn't wide receiver 1, he would have been. But he's wide receiver 1. I mean, just because he's just because he's a transfer, it piqued my radar for sure. But he's been pretty productive, at least from what I've seen at the collegiate level before. And I think it would have been a bit unfair to make him a right bench baller when he's certainly at least the number 2 wide receiver on our team. We've got another guy, T-Mac, 5-star freshman, who really balled out on Saturday as well. But I think, I think I'd be undermining him just a little bit by calling him a right bench baller. I think he's proven his worth a little bit more than that. But I appreciate the sort of reminder
I had to give you
of
the
his
opportunity
excellent performance.
to bring up the analysis and to break that down a second because I knew you would be all over it. So
correct. With that, we'll move into Bobby's favorite segment, Garbage Time Takes Your Money. Before he gives us the picks, I will briefly recap last week's results. At the time of recording, the line for the Notre Dame-Ohio State game in Columbus on Saturday night primetime was minus 15.5 in favor of Ohio State with an over-under of 59.5. The game did not even come close to the over, which we all picked. And the boys, to my right and to my left, or to my bottom and left, I have no idea where you guys are at, both picked Notre Dame to cover wisely. And yours truly picked Ohio State to cover. Had the money line lock. The cover did not happen. So that is my first 0-2 of the year. It's a sad, sad day. So with that, Bob, take it away.
Well, everybody loves combo meal, and so that's why we're doing a 2-for-1 special here for Garbage Time Takes Your Money this week. And I think it would be only appropriate, since we had such fruitful discussion on the topic, to have the 2 games be the games that we were just discussing. To start out with the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers at Paycor Stadium. Now, I know, Dennis, we already know that you think that the Bengals are going to get on the right note. But, of course, the line is minus 6.5, as you mentioned. And the over-under, which potentially could be, our deciding factor for our own pride and personal betting record, is 44.5 points. Where do you see your Bengals stacking up along those lines?
Well, I've got the Bengals covering the 6.5. I think I said that already. And I'm going to stick by that prediction because it's only a touchdown. Initially, I wanted to say under before you gave me the number, but 44.5, and then also predicting a 7-point cover, basically a 6.5-point cover. That's hard. And as I was predicting a score-wise 31-20 in favor of Cincinnati, that's what I was coming up with. That would hit the over. So officially, I'm going to go with the Bengals covering and the over.
Want me to go next, Bob?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Derek.
As this week's residential loser, I'm with Dennis. I'm going to take the Bengals to cover. I've got them winning rather handily. Off the dome score prediction, 30-13. So right at that 44.5 border. So with that, I'm going to take the under for only the second time this season. Under, and give me the Bengals to cover.
Scared from that Notre Dame Ohio State game.
I am also likewise thinking along the lines of Derek.
Unders in Ohio, Dennis. Unders in Ohio.
Apparently.
I'm thinking along the same lines as Derek. I'm going with the under as well on this one. I think this is going to be a relatively low-scoring affair. I see the Bengals scoring somewhere around 24 points in this one. I'm not really sure what to quite make of the Steelers, though. I don't think they'll win, but I think I'm going to have to go with the cover. Give me the 6.5 points. I wish it was 7.5. Don't get me wrong. I wish it was 7.5 because I'd be feeling like, with a 24-17 ball game, I'd be feeling quite good with my chances. But give me the 6.5 points. Still puts a tub. Maybe Evan Shooter McPherson will shock us and miss an extra point. And I'll get out on that one. But I'm going to go against the grain. I'll go under and give me the Steelers to cover on that one. Or, hopefully, but maybe a little backdoor action. And then, of course, everybody's that's watching this podcast, hopefully their favorite game of the week, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Lions. At home at Ford Field for the Lions. -3.5 for the Eagles with the over-under at 48.5 points. 48.5 points. We'll go with Derek this time to start off. What are your thoughts on this one?
So, quick math. 3.5 Eagles favorites, 48.5. What's that put it at? Like 26, 23, basically, is what they're predicting for the Eagles. I do think the Lions will cover. I think they lose by a field goal. It's either going to be by 3 or 4, and
or a million.
3, 4, or 44. Even though I'm not taking the Lions to win, 10-7 against the spread last year with arguably the worst, least talented roster in the entire NFL. Clearly, either the public thinks that the Lions have a good chance of covering, or Vegas is really playing with everyone's Hard Knocks hype and they're expecting a big payout on the Eagles to win by 10+. I don't know. But I'm going to take the Lions to cover. I can't root against them completely, and the over-under's tough. Because if Philadelphia gets rolling early, they're going to keep rolling. But I can't take the under twice in one day. Give me the over, dang it.
I'll just make this quick since I kind of outlined both of them in my segment before, but I said 24-21 Detroit, and that's going to be the under and the Lions covering perfectly. So it's gonna be a good one. Tune in, baby, and the Lions. They always play at the same time every week, 1:00 on Sunday, because they never get anything but a 1:00 on Sunday game unless it's Thanksgiving. So make sure you're all over that. Dennis, last but not least.
Yeah, I said that Philadelphia was going to win the game, regrettably, earlier in the podcast. I pulled out the green shirt in unfortunate support of the Eagles. But I do think that Detroit covers the 3.5, just like Derek said. I think this is a really close game. and it could even be, a last-second victory for Philadelphia. Not a
Oh, don't
backdoor
say it
cover
ain't
by the
so,
Lions.
Dennis. I don't want it to be quite that much of a heartbreaker.
No.
Well, I mean, neither do I. Neither do I. I mean, we could see some Jake Elliott last-second action. I don't know. And then I just don't see enough scoring in this game. I just am feeling the under. Don't have a fancy analysis for it, but I'm going to go Detroit covers and the under.
All righty. Well, I guess I'll get into the socials before we wrap this one up.
One more thing first, quick, Bob. Just to do a quick Google search, 48.5, you said?
Yeah.
So the Lions' previous 5 games, 33-41, clears. 23-27, clears. 27-27, clears. 17-48, clears. 35-23, I mean, you can go back 10 years. 39-35, 28-33, 35-14, 34-24. The Lions would have hit the over in all of those. So, not trying to get you to, sway on your picks here, but the Lions
tempting.
do have
That's
a penchant for hitting the over.
That's fair. That's fair. Maybe a little unsettling, but I'm sticking with mine.
I have to think about that before kickoff on Sunday, and send in a behind-the-scenes last-second prediction
Amendment.
change. I don't know. That was interesting. That's good.
All right, Bob, hit us with the socials.
Alrighty. At Garbage Time Takes on Instagram, at Garbage Time Takes on Twitter, and of course, at Garbage Time Takes here on YouTube with our link to our website where you can find all the rest of our articles that we have so eloquently discussed during this podcast in the description. And also, like I said before, I'll say it again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the big support on the last pod. Likewise, please feel to like, comment, subscribe on this one. And if you know anybody that might be interested in hearing about Detroit Lions sports or sports in general, send them our way. We'd love to have your time and your viewership here on the Garbage Time Takes pod.
Yeah, well said, Bob. Let's see if we can get this podcast to 50 views. Would be, the first one yet. Granted, I have not actually watched last week's pod, and so I could be the one to get it to 50 views. But that would feel somewhat,
Hollow.
bitter. It'd feel a little shallow. So let's see if we can get an authentic, right off rip 50 views. Really appreciate the support, as Bob mentioned. Feel free to check out the website as always.
Also get us to 10 subscribers. We're 2 away right now. I think we can get 2 before the next pod.
Agreed. Any closing thoughts from you, Dennis?
All set. Good.
All right. Well, in that case,
Okay.
thanks again so much for watching. Appreciate the support. And with that, in 3,
1, peace.
Peace.